I only have a limited bit of information with which to introduce Gregory. And when we get into the actual interview, I will ask him to fill in any gaps in my description here. But one thing I can definitely tell you is that he has such wonderful, bouncy energy, and his mind is so expansive that I can easily see where he is the one to help clarify the quantum paradigm. And so it is absolutely a wonderful experience. Something else that I can add in is that off and on, well, Gregory has been involved with Coptics off and on for at least 40 years, and maybe even longer. I'm not sure exactly when he first got involved with the Coptics, but he's been involved with Coptics since the 80s. And so he is definitely a long time friend. And so with that, Gregory, thank you for coming in, and doubly thank you for being open to playing this game of interview so that we can try something different and shake things up a little bit. So I guess the first question that I'm going to have for you is there anything else in your background that you'd like everyone to know about before we get into the meat of what we're here to talk about?
Well, I can share that I've been studying about metaphysics and that for about 50 years, a little over 50 years. And I got introduced to the Coptics about 45 years ago, 44 years ago, something like that. Yeah. So, yeah, just been fascinated all my life and enthused. And I have relished the challenge that meets us all when we are introduced to things that challenge our existing paradigms. And we are then presented with the decision of whether or not we're going to hang on to our old paradigm or relax and allow ourselves to grow.
That sounds very familiar. I know that I've been involved with metaphysics for many, many years as well. And it's interesting because you think you know something and then you have a new experience and then you know it on a deeper level and you realize that you never really knew it to begin with. And now that you finally do know it, you're ready for the, as you say, that next challenge to take it to an even higher level. So it's great that you've had that much experience with all this and have been able to take it up more than just a few levels, I'm sure. So the whole idea of clarifying the quantum paradigm, I know that the whole idea of quantum physics and quantum mechanics has received a lot of attention over the last couple of decades. And on one level, it kind of makes sense the way a lot of people talk about it, but then again, those of us who have really looked into the actual science of quantum mechanics and what does it really mean about the observer phenomena or the Heisenberg uncertainty principle or the Copenhagen interpretation of the whole set of theories and the many worlds theory and all that kind of stuff. The general idea of quantum physics, quantum mechanics is, at least from my understanding, focused on what happens inside of an atom. It's like we've got matter that gets broken down into smaller particles, down into molecules, down into atoms. Then you break open the atom, you get the protons, neutrons, electrons, and then you break those down into even smaller particles. And that's the world of the quantum physicist. And I guess the big question I have to start with, just to set a foundation, is why would we who live in the real world on a normal day-to-day life experience, why do we want to know anything about what happens inside of an atom? How is that relevant for us?
Well, I would have to say, I would have to answer that and respond to that It's about electromagnetism. Okay. It's for me, in my own words, my head is in the clouds and my feet are firmly in on the earth. Okay. And that's the electromagnetic field of our Merkaba, of our heart, of our channel, of our chakras, the standing columnar wave that we create with our chakras when we hold our shoulders back and we have our head up and we keep our heart open and our mind open.
So, okay, so it's about energy, and it's about using that energy not only in a physical way, but also on the mental and emotional levels as well, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Um, so I guess the next question is, as far as your experience with this, what things have you seen that indicate that you're accessing that quantum energy as opposed to anything else, or is it just so pervasive that you can't separate the two?
Um, Rephrase that for me, will you please?
Okay. Okay, so as far as the information that you're here to share with us, let me rephrase it this way. Once I've learned what you know, what will I be able to do that I couldn't do yesterday?
Boy. Oh, man. Huh. That's too hard a question to answer. I'm sorry.
Okay, okay, that's fair and valid. I'm really diving into the deep questions
Sure,
early on.
sure, sure,
Maybe you
sure.
should save those for later. Okay.
Yeah, let's get into that later.
Sure, sure. I remember in our conversation yesterday that you were talking about energy. You were talking about some things that can be explained through the use of quantum energy that couldn't be explained otherwise. I know there are a lot of people who say that the only way the pyramids could have been built is if aliens were involved. And I remember you talking about a couple of stories about Buddhist monks who were able to do certain things, other people who were able to do things with this energy of the quantum field,
Okay.
the 0 point field, and all that kind of stuff, channeling that energy. Why don't you just kind of share some of those stories a little bit so that we have some concept of what the practical application of this might be?
Okay. When we, the more, it's my experience that the more I am balanced with with what is above and what is below the electromagnetic field of not only my own personal space, but when I balance my energy, the more balanced I am, the more focused my energy is. I call it chi, but it's energy. It's our energy, the movement of life and the spirit of life that moves through our chakras, in our heart, in our mind. And the more balanced I am with my electromagnet, what's above and what below, my feet firmly on the ground and my head connected with God, with the universal consciousness, then I have more power. Then I am more focused. I'm able to project myself without any fear. I can express myself without any fear. I can go about my life calmly, and walk with grace, walk in grace. That the grace that flows down upon us all, you know.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. I mean,
I can
just
walk.
being able to feel that sense of calm and grace, as you put it, and that focused energy that allows us to be present in each moment. That I can definitely see where that is worth pretty much anything we can do to get there.
Yeah. I love the definition of the word enthusiasm. The dictionary definition of the word enthusiasm, the way the word breaks down, the main part of the word is thous, which is the Greek word for God, and the prefix and the suffix describe the experience of being like possessed by God, to be filled with God, to be inspired by God, and that's the way to go.
Yeah, yeah. It's one thing to channel a another spirit, but it's something altogether different to channel the divine directly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that is quite the experience.
It's like being, for me, it's like being in the middle of the channel where the water flows fastest, where the water runs clear and it's a fast flow, and it changes as you go around the bends, so you have to follow the flow. And that's the way energy moves, it's energy, frequency, and motion. No, energy, frequency, and vibration. That's as the divine enters into the third dimensional realm, it starts to vibrate at a certain frequencies and different frequencies, and that's how it affects the atomic structure of matter.
Okay, okay. Um, I I guess one question that comes to mind is what drew you into the realm of looking into quantum realities and the quantum paradigm to begin with? What pulled you out of normal life and into this realm of experience?
Boy. Okay, well, I was brought up Catholic. And my father and my mother were beautiful parents, and they helped me so much to get connected with the divine in that early formative age. And then at the age of 12, about the age of 12, I started reading books like Chariots of the Gods, and I started watching the TV show Kung Fu about Hinduism or Buddhism and Eastern thought. And then my dad began to go to different churches to open up his spiritual experience of his connection with the divine. And I went with him every different place, even to AA meetings, and just wherever my dad went, I went. And whatever my dad needed me to do, I did it. So, I mean, I was his right-hand man, and I loved it. Anyways, so my mom remained Catholic, and my dad started to explore all these other different religions, and so I was like in the middle, in a crossfire hurricane, I like to call it, so I just became so, that was when I remembered that I really became inquisitive about, I would like to know what's going on here. And what's
What's it all about, Alfie?
yeah, what's it all about, and never mind all the rhetoric and all the rhetoric and everything like that. What can you give me just a simple answer? And that's what I sought for, is the bullseye. Because that's, when you're shooting an arrow through a crossfire hurricane, you want to make sure you hit the bullseye, right? So that's what I aimed for. And I feel like I have done pretty well so far with my life as far as achieving that goal. It's not easy. It's been challenging. the emotional and psychological and the mental challenges, our physical challenges, they can be very intense. But the rewards, and for me, the rewards that it has paid off are so much more than what I would have experienced if I just would have not done it. So it's worth it for
Okay.
me,
Yeah.
and it's worth it for anyone.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely understand what you're saying with all of that. I guess the next question that I'm thinking about is going back to the title of the presentation, clarification of the quantum paradigm. Clarification usually means that there are a lot of people who are misunderstanding some aspect of it. At least that's what it means to me. So I guess what aspects of the quantum paradigm do you think are in most need of clarification?
Okay, that's a good question. I can answer. I got an answer for that. So this whole thing about quantum physics and quantum mechanics is based upon, this is my current understanding, is based upon false presumptions and assumptions, guesswork at what reality is, what the universe is, how physics works. It dates back even before the time of Christ, 500 and some odd BC, with a man named Euclid, who attempted to solve the puzzle of the flower of life. The flower of life, if you're not familiar with it, it's a sacred geometrical symbol that was etched into a granite wall in a temple in Egypt. And it's also found throughout many cultures, many countries. In China, it is found underneath the paw of a mythical creature called a fu dog, and it's a sphere, a ball, with this flower of life etched on the outside of the sphere. So, this symbol is a sacred geometrical symbol that was etched in a wall and etched and left for us to figure out for ourselves. And Euclid went back down there, went down to Egypt because he was very fascinated by this, and attempted to find out what the mystery was all about, what the secret was, what knowledge it had to share, because it shows, like in the temple in China, there's an inscription below the fu dog that says, anyone who comprehends the mystery of the flower of life will possess the power of the universe, or something like that. It's just really good stuff. So this guy Euclid had to figure it out. So he goes down there, and that's when the beginning of the Platonic solids began. He drew the triangle, the square, and the circle, looking at that flower of life, thinking, well, these points pretty much come close to it, so let's just draw a triangle, a circle, and a square, and we'll call it good. So he guessed at it. And then Plato came along and took that and created the 5 Platonic solids. And Euclid, Plato, all these different guys like that, from way back then, when we believed that the earth was flat, they were the founding fathers of geometry. And geometry and math is the basis of all of physics and quantum physics. So that the clarification comes into this. We began this whole journey thousands of years ago based on false presumptions and assumptions and guesswork, and so see, the flower of life, there is something there. And recently it has been solved, the puzzle. That, let me tell you the people, Euclid, Plato that I know of, Da Vinci, Socrates, Newton, Einstein, Tesla, Walter Russell, these guys all throughout their life, most of them did it in secret because they knew if they figured it out that they would not be celebrated any more so than Galileo was, right? So they just said, hey, I'd like to figure this out, but we're gonna keep it on the down low because whatever. So anyways, but they did. Da Vinci, Einstein, Tesla, they devoted their lives. They wanted to know what this was. And they weren't able to get it because they were stuck in a linear paradigm. A linear paradigm. And the quantum paradigm is that which there's no box. There's no box. It's a paradigm that is expansive. It expands, and it's got the contraction. It's like breathing in and out, as above, so below. There's always expansion and contraction throughout the entire universe. Energy moves. That's the way energy moves. So the clarification of the quantum paradigm is that to try to, the whole idea of trying to find a box that is comfortable and secure and makes sense, makes rational sense, it is a box. And the quantum paradigm is not, it's not a box. It's an understanding, okay, if you will. It's an understanding. And that understanding continues to expand and grow as long as we stay open. Okay?
Absolutely wonderful. I think I hear in what you're saying exactly what I was looking for. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is that the old way of looking at life in the universe, the way the universe works, is very much conscious mind focused, trying to reason everything out logically and connecting the dots one by one. Whereas the quantum paradigm, it's not based in logic, it's based in intuition. It's based on something that goes well beyond the physical and cannot be put, as you say, there is no box. It cannot be put into a box because it is so, there's so many aspects of it that you can't describe it. It's kind of like the whole idea of if you try to name and describe God, then you have limited God, and God will not be limited in that way. And what I'm hearing you say is that the quantum paradigm is very much like God in that it is so expansive and so magnificent in so many different ways that it cannot be described in linear logical terms.
Okay. It doesn't completely exclude the rational need. We have a need to have a rational, reasonable explanation and that a paradigm, an understanding. But like it says in the Bible, lean not upon your own understanding. You see, that our own understanding is the paradigm that we form in our rational mind. And that's necessary in order to be able to know how to move, where to place our feet, how to place our feet, how to speak our words, how to address someone, how to interact. That's the need we have a rational need in that respect. So it's not to exclude that or to say it's not good. No, we need that. What we,
We need to go beyond that.
we need to go beyond that. And that rational paradigm can keep us locked into that box and keep us afraid and anxious and nervous about things that are mystical, magical, just wonder, the wonders of the big picture of how great, how large the universe can be, how large God can be, how large God is. You know what I mean?
I think I understand what you're saying. Yes, thank you for helping to clarify my understanding of what you said. You mentioned something about how much larger and more beautiful that the universe can be. I think this is a good part in our interview, just to kind of open the door for whatever else you might want to share. So feel free to take this in any direction you care to go for at least a little while.
Okay, maybe 2 minutes. Okay. I love you all. I love you so much. Okay.
Well, I guess the question here would be what other information do you think that this group could benefit from tonight?
Well,
Would they be interested in the Terrence Howard, is it
yeah,
Ron Groban or what?
yeah, I could mention that. So, okay, as I said before, my journey began when I was about 12 years old, reading the Chariots of the Gods and seeing the pictures of the flower of life back then, and all of those, the monolithic structures and creations that were left here for us. So recently, about 3 weeks ago, I learned of a podcast by Joe Rogan, who is an MMA wrestler, retired MMA wrestler. He did a podcast number 2152 with Terrence Howard. Terrence is a retired black actor who appeared in Iron Man and several other he was a very popular and very well-known actor. He's a black man, and he's a singer, a musician, he's well-known all throughout the world with his voice and his acting, all that stuff. So anyways, he's retired from that now, and he's returned to the love of his youth, which is quantum physics and the study of the flower of life. And what he has shared with the human race in this 3-hour podcast is the most phenomenal thing I've come across in my 50 plus years of study. The most informative, direct, clear presentation of what he has to even present. It's just amazing and it's not, he's not the only one, and he's not the first one. He speaks about the mysteries of 369 that Tesla referred to. And Tesla understood the mystery of the 369, but Terrence Howard shows in his revelation of the flower of life, the mystery of solving the solution of the flower of life puzzle. Terrence Howard shows how the mystery of the 369 that Tesla referred to relates to the flower of life and the periodic table, the atomic structure of matter, how the divine. Am I okay? Am I
You're
okay?
fine. You're
Okay,
done.
how the divine expresses itself upon energy, and the energy will that then vibrates at different frequencies, and that affects the atomic structure of our material three-dimensional world, and the atoms. They goes through the periodic table, starting with hydrogen, and as the frequency of the vibration varies, the atomic structure of the atom is altered, and it becomes more and more solid and more. It changes from one throughout the periodic table. See, and what our current paradigm shows about the periodic table is that it's all in boxes, in all squares, and it goes like that. It's all really logical and reasonable and rational. The quantum periodic table, if you will, is like a Fibonacci curve, like how the Nautilus, how pi, how it the Nautilus, how is the Fibonacci curve, and that's, anyways. If you Walter Russell, back in the late 1800s, he worked on the periodic table and showed how it's all about different octaves. And when I met my guru, Swami Omkarananda, in Switzerland in the mid 80s, through Swami Siddhartha, and she introduced me to the Coptics. So when I met him, I became really fascinated. I was always fascinated by the Sri Mandala. It's a chakra. It's a mandala. It's a geometric form. And I asked him what he could tell me about it, and he told me the same thing that Terrence Howard discovered through his revelations of the flower of life. It's the way that the divine brings energy through the different octaves of vibration, of frequency of energy, frequency of energy, emotion, all that, into matter, into solid matter. And it's a beautiful symbol. And I highly recommend that whole 3-hour interview with Joe Rogan and Terrence Howard, episode 2152. There's
Yeah,
so
I just
many other.
posted the link to that in the chat window. So anybody who opens up the chat window in Zoom will see a link to that podcast episode that Gregory's talking about here.
Oh, let me also add that along with all the other things that he has revealed and Terrence Howard has shared openly and freely with no expectation to the whole human race, is that he is, through using the solution of the flower of life, he has created a thing called tangential flight. And you can look that up, and it's just a 15-minute video but it shows how he uses the flower of life solution to create this thing called tangential flight. And it's a new type of flight that doesn't fly like a helicopter or an airplane, anything like that. It flies like a UFO or a UAP, whatever you want to call them. And it can go underwater and into outer space. It's not affected by the different pressure. And so anyways, and he's currently using it to work to clean up our ecology, our world that we live in, that we need. So let's do this. That's what he says. Let's just do this. He says to artists like me, he says to artists, take this stuff and you guys are going to take this stuff and you're going to do something really beautiful and creative with it. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing a wonderful job here.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Alan.
So it's getting close to 8 o'clock. I do want to
Really?
open the floor to other questions from the rest of the audience. Questions, comments, feedback that anybody else would like to add in. So feel free to unmute yourselves and join in the conversation.
Yeah. Got it?
I would like to ask a question. I heard you say that the human presence, it's human consciousness, human energy, changes the vibrational frequency and in some way the nature of virtually everything on the periodic table. Is that correct?
No, it's not our human, you said human consciousness. And that does happen, of course, because of the way that we, of course it does. But it's the way that the divine, of course, there is nothing that is not the divine. Everything is God. We are all God. So we are the ones that, it's up to us what we think, what we project, what we send out into the world. That affects
Yes.
we send out vibration. Is that that answers your question?
Okay, it is the divine soul, the presence of God within us that's doing the work.
Yes.
Okay. And we all have that, and we all have that ability
Yes.
if we choose to identify with it and express it.
Exactly.
And it's God expressing through us.
Exactly. And for me, that's what it means to be born again, to acknowledge. My dad taught me this from a child. He taught me it's every person's choice whether or not we are going to each choose to either accept our divine heritage or say, no, I'm just going to be an animal. I'm just going to be a human. I'm just going to be a man, or I'm
Or
going to be
human.
a
Human without the divine.
human without God, Okay, so it's like, man, why would you want to do that? Who wants to do that? It's like driving, and for me, it's like, that would be like going on a 5,000-mile trip, and I could fly in my airplane, but I think I'll walk instead. And I don't need to take any water or food with me. It's like, but I could take it. It's all there. And my dad, that's another thing my dad taught me, is that heaven is like a banquet table that is laid out before us all.
They're just a human.
And it's up to us whether or not we're going to sit down and be there and serve each other, and to be there to be part of that fellowship.
Just think of the power it would be able
Right.
to.
Absolutely wonderful. Anybody else have any questions, comments, stories to
Gregory-
contribute?
Greg, this is Pete Wheely asking, wondering, the flower of life. I've heard that title before, but can you go a little more in depth and talk more about the flower of life, what it means
Okay.
to me or
Okay,
anyone?
what it is, it's a
Simplify it if you can.
it's a symbol of 64 circles.
Okay.
Okay, and they form a geometric pattern, and the circles, if you can see my fingers,
Yeah.
when the circles come together, they go like this, where they meet with each other, and they come through, so that's the way the whole symbol is.
Mhm.
That's the symbol. It's that simple. And what that is the energy of the electromagnetic field of the planet. But that field is within every atom and with every star.
Mhm.
There's a North Pole and a South Pole. And, the electricity spins one direction, like clockwise. and the magnetism, the field of the magnetic field of the planet revolves the other way. That's why when you flush a toilet above the equator, it goes one way, and okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, that's the effect of the electromagnetic field of the planet, and it creates a toroidal effect around the planet. The the aurora borealis. So those are the electromagnetic waves coming up, and they form like a donut around the planet. And that's the electromagnetic field that surrounds our planet. It's like our planet's aura, if you will. Okay, and at the equator, when the electricity and the magnetism meet, it's like those two waves. It's like those two circles coming together, and then when they meet, they crash up like that, and when they crash up into a point, that's real. That's the energy moving at the frequency and the vibration required in order for energy to become matter.
It's really positive and negative energy. It's masculine and feminine energy. Everything that you're describing is really just the masculine is going the one way, the feminine is going the other way.
Yeah.
So it contributes and makes this balance for the creation to occur.
That's right. Expansion and contraction. That's what energy moves. That's the way energy moves. Is we breathe in and we breathe out, and the whole just like our bodies do it. Everything, atoms do it. The whole universe is.
And it's the hologram. It's exactly what is happening, up in the higher realms, all the way to the divine creator, which is everything. And it drops down into the superhuman universes and the universes, and then on into our, our galaxy and into our Milky Way, Milky Way galaxy, and into us. And it's all that same pattern, but it's always around us. We still have free will so that we can choose how we're gonna use it. If we just allow ourselves to be open and receiving this energy, we would always be in that frequency of balance and creating more easily. But because here in this earth plane, we have choice. We have the opportunity to choose, to be positive or negative or balanced. We've got all those choices. And so that's why we are out of balance many times, because we just have allowed ourselves to be functioning there. So, but it's all that reflection. It's the hologram, I think. To me, it seems like this hologram, seeing it come down from the highest level on down. And the hologram is within every phase of all that there is, including within us.
Yeah, I'm glad that I'm grateful that Orchard brought up holograms, because that's what these waves are. These bubbles, on the granite wall in Egypt, that the symbol is etched. That's just a two-dimensional etching, and it shows circles. Okay, and when the circles come together, they go like that on the diagram. But
Like an egg.
when on the surface of the water, when two waves come together like that, when two concentric circles of waves come together, they rise up like that, and that's how holograms are created too. They're waves of light that meet with each other on a certain angle, and that's how holograms are created. Okay, and that's it's my understanding that with this we are. Well, it's like we live in a holographic projection, because how we think is that's the experience that we have of life. How we think of each other and how we think of a situation or the world or whatever, that affects, and it determines the kind of experience that we're going to have with each person And with each conversation, with each everything, every butterfly and every dragonfly, everything.
Right. Well, I don't know, man.
I know,
I'm trying to figure it out, but
I know,
it's pretty heavy, man.
I know.
Yeah. I can definitely tell that there's so much information that we
Yeah.
could cover that, yeah, we could be here all week. That would be absolutely
Have
wonderful.
any of you ever heard of Melchizedek? Drunvalo Melchizedek? Well, he's the one that had that flower of life. He wrote a book on all of that. And that was the one that was pretty popular. I don't know, I'm gonna say most of the time that I've been in metaphysics, which is, probably 50, 60 years also. So, and also the temple, which, where this holographic picture is, this drawing of the flower of life, that's at the temple of Osiris.
Osiris?
Osiris, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Osiris.
that's more the masculine energy, but that's where it's showing that, and that granite plaque that you're talking about. So apparently it shows that Osiris very much must have worked with those energies too. And Osiris and
long
like
time ago,
Isis, which
isn't
is
it?
Sirius, which that again is the balance, it's the masculine, feminine balance.
Yeah.
And they're always working together, so.
Yeah, I think we just all need to get together and have a group mind chat session for a
So-
weekend or something, a retreat.
One of the things about the quantum paradigm, the clarification of the quantum paradigm, is as Orchard was just saying, we have flip-flopped like a pendulum back and forth between a patriarchal society and a matriarchal society many, many times. And there's been many times also that we have entered into this golden age period that we are now entering into now.
We are.
Yes, we are entering into a new golden age. And
What doesn't feel too golden yet?
And when we have flip-flopped back and forth between a matriarchal and a patriarchal culture, and every time we flip-flop, then the men are in charge and it's a man's world, and the women are in charge and the women have the final say. And so, but in this time, we have the wonderful opportunity, because the pendulum, every time the pendulum slows down, and we have the opportunity now to have a balance, a harmonic balance between the masculine and the feminine. Don't ruin it. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. It's worth it. It's worth every bit of it. Okay?
Well, I know early on in this discussion you were talking about balance and how important the balance was. So I can definitely see what you're saying there. So at this point, it's about 10 minutes after 8. Just to be
Oh,
respectful
wow.
of everyone's time, I think I'll go ahead and
I'm sorry,
close this
everybody.
one out. You are perfectly fine. I would love to just kind of let this keep going all night long, but I think it probably is a good
I'm
thing.
all done.
I guess before I close this out, do you feel like you've said everything that you really wanted to say for tonight?
No, I got one last quick thing to say.
Okay, then I want to give you that opportunity.
The only barrier to the superconscious mind is the rational mind strengthened by opinionated knowledge.
Yeah, pretty heavy.
Thank you.
And I definitely agree with that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank everyone for coming in tonight
Thank you,
and
everybody.
experimenting with this new format. We'll probably play with it again at least a few more times and see how it goes. And before we just end it, I think I probably should go ahead and do a closing prayer. And so we'll go ahead and find that comfortable position again, return our focus to that divine space within, and allow the wisdom that has come forward in this session tonight to carry inward and resonate on all levels of our being, and just let that wisdom call forward the divine wisdom that can confirm all aspects of truth and to teach us anything else that we may need to know in the here and now and along each step of our pathway. We are open to receive, and we are thankful for the love, the wisdom, and the energy that is available to us now and always. And so it is. Amen. So again, thank you for being here. I did have the link in the chat. If you want to check out that 3-hour interview that Gregory was talking about, you can click that link. It will open up in a browser tab, and you can bookmark it for another time if you'd rather come back to it a different time. When this video does go on YouTube, I will put a link to that same podcast video in the description, so you'll be able to get to it that way as well. So, thank you, and we'll see everyone later on another one of these events.